A few months ago, I gave a report about the leaching of chemicals into our bodies from plastic packaging and storage containers. The new news is the technology available to us for tracking the presence of these chemicals has made significant gains. The recent studies are looking at the presence of MNPs in our bodies. MNPs are microplastics and nanoplastics, or tiny pieces of plastic, some so small they are difficult to see using a microscope. One study just recently released was from researchers at the University of New Mexico. They used tissue from autopsies done between 1997 and 2024 to determine the amount of MNPs in the brains, livers, and kidneys of the deceased persons. They found plastic in each organ, but found that brains had more plastic than the other organs. In addition, the amount of plastic in all tissues was shown to be increasing. The tissue from 1997 contained less plastic than the tissue in 2024. In fact, between 2016 and 2024, the amount of plastic found in the brain doubled. Another finding was that persons diagnosed with dementia had more plastic in their brains than those without a diagnosis of dementia. These findings lead to two significant questions. One, how is the plastic getting into our bodies and our brains? And two, what harm are the tiny plastic particles doing? The answer to question one is plastic particles are now everywhere, in nearly everything. We eat them, we breathe them, we get them on our skin everywhere. Once the tiny particles enter our bodies, they are apparently entering our bloodstream and traveling around. The particles enter organs and for some reason stay there. The answers to the questions about the harm these plastics do remains unknown. At this point, all the researchers could do was show the presence of the plastic. They have not been able to determine what effects they are having on our organs. They know that the concentrations of these microscopic bits of plastic are greater in the brain, but they don't know why. Although the researchers say that many additional studies are required to provide a definitive answer about the harm these chemicals may be causing, there are many researchers who describe the increase in these plastics in our bodies as alarming. So, how much plastic has been found in our brains? The answer? About the amount in a plastic spoon. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not too happy about the potential of this much plastic residing in my brain. The researchers do agree on one important fact. All the reports recommend reducing our exposure to micro and nanoplastics that enter our bodies and our brains. This is not an easy task because the amount of plastic in all forms, from large to microscopic, is increasing every day. In fact, it is estimated that plastic production will double over the next 15 years. Now, we get to my favorite part of these commentaries. What can you do? The answer is simple. Cut down your exposure to micro and nanoplastics. Did I say simple? Easy to say, but extremely difficult to make it happen. as I have mentioned in the past. It can be done. And here are a few suggestions as to how. The first thing you need to do is decide what you want to do. You can decide to wait. You can wait for the results of additional research. Or you can begin to make the transition from using those everyday plastics that have been identified as the most troublesome. That means getting rid of the one item identified as the #1 source of micro and nano plastics. That is the plastic water bottle or similar plastic bottles. Eliminating these bottles from use would have a huge impact on the amount of plastic you ingest. Second, stop using produce bags made of plastic. Try to buy your fruits and vegetables fresh and put them in produce bags that are not made of plastic. Stop storing your food in plastic. And finally, never heat food in a plastic container in your microwave oven. I know I sound like a proverbial broken record on this subject, but these new studies are making the case against combining plastics and the food we eat more convincing every day. It's a tough challenge, but fortunately, there are more and more alternatives coming out to help us meet that challenge. We can do it. Thank you for watching. I'm Alan Swanson.